In my opinion, the Rogue Invitational was so freaking good.
Toomey's got it. 5 event wins, 4 championships at the Rogue Invitational.
Just from a wide picture, without even looking at the athletes or performances, the event just seemed to be so good. The broadcast looked fantastic. I enjoyed watching all of it. What was free and online, where you could watch on YouTube from Rogue's page, was all you needed. They had stuff that you could pay for, so you could see more camera angles and things like that, which is great if you want to support Rogue and do that, but you didn't need to do that to see everything you wanted to and needed to see. Great quality, easy to watch, easy to follow. The announcers did so well. So happy to hear Sean Woodland back on the mic. It was great from a viewing experience. The fans were into it. And it seemed like the athletes were having a good time too, and Rogue takes care of the athletes. The athletes don't pay anything to go to this competition. They win money and have a free trip. So it's just a really well-run event all around for anyone involved in it. Viewer, athlete, anyone that I've known of. I've known volunteers who seem to really enjoy it too. So it seems like Rogue is just a really well put on event. That, as a broad perspective, one of my favorite parts of this event, but then it was also just a really interesting race. So let's take a look at the leaderboard and see how things shook out at the end of the weekend. So on the women's side, not a huge surprise on the top of the leaderboard, although there are some surprises on the podium and with how we got to the final results. But in first place, you have the woman I think we all expected to be in first place, or you should have, Tia-Clair Toomey, or although she seemed to insinuate that she was the underdog.
I'm the underdog and I'm here to reclaim my crown.
All right, well, we're looking forward to that journey.
I don't know about that, Tia, but she wasn't quite as dominant as I thought she was going to be. So after day one, she had won every single event, and in my brain, I'm like, this is it. Tia could potentially win every event. And that is not what happened. Laura Horvath sort of gave her a run for her money. Laura won almost as many events as Tia did. Tia won 5 of them, Laura won 4 of them. But Laura, her worst events just are such a big hole that she just couldn't make up for that. So if I take a look at the leaderboard, we've got Tia with a first, so 4 firsts, then a second, losing to Laura, then an 8th on event 6. I had a feeling whatever event 6 was going to be a hole for Tia, and Tia's holes are not real holes. They're not like Laura's holes that we've talked about. Tia is just incredibly fit. She is the fittest human, I think. And when she isn't necessarily the most dominant in something, she's also not the bottom of the pack. And with the event that she took her worst place finish in, her 8th place finish, that was the duel. And seconds separated that. And when she finished 8th, Gabby Magala pulled out right next to her, got injured in that heat. So, did that distract Tia? I don't know, I think Tia's pretty laser focused, but not great juju when you're sitting next to someone or standing next to somebody who just got injured. Kind of a distraction, easy to get in your head, and it was seconds. That event was seconds. Tia's difference from Laura in that, not huge. Where if you look at Tia's dominance in the event that she beat Laura in by the most, the handstand push-up one, it is minutes, not seconds. So Tia's holes, if you can even call them that, holes, nothing like Laura's. And then she took a second, Tia, in event 7, losing to Laura, a second in event 8, losing to Laura, and then a first in the final event, which kind of surprised me. I thought Laura was going to come in second still overall in the event because she was too many points back to make up the difference on Tia. Tia would have to have like a collapse. But I thought that Laura could win that event and have the longest string of wins at the Rogue Invitational. That would be 5 consecutive event wins. And Tia would have still won. But Laura finished like 4th in that event, and I thought that sandbag, heavy sandbag, mass moves mass. Laura's a bigger athlete than Tia. I was surprised to see Tia handle those sandbags and do it well. Second place person in the final event, the sandbag cleans, sandbag grace, if you want to call it that. It was 30 cleans for times, although the weights did change. Grace, the weights don't change. But Dani Spiegel hugged Tia after, and you could see it, what she was saying. She was saying so fast. Like, Tia was so fast on that a sandbag event is Dani Spiegel's best event, and Tia was still just a little bit faster. Incredible. And she's a fairly small athlete. She's not a big person. So still very impressed by Tia, although it was fun to see that she had a tiny bit of weakness, you could say, or she didn't look so dominant that no one was going to touch her. There was a little bit of a battle there. We saw her in second place throughout events, which was kind of fun. I enjoy that, but I also did like seeing Tia win this. I thought it was cool to see her come back after losing last year to Laura and reclaim her title. So congratulations, Tia-Clair Toomey, winning the Rogue Invitational for the 4th time. Moving on to Laura Horvath, and like I said, she had 4 consecutive event wins, and I thought she was going to get that 5th one. Big hole for Laura, we've talked about it, we'll talk about it again, is those handstand push-ups. Strict handstand push-ups, deficit especially. This wasn't that, but it was strict wall facing. It just kills her. And she was 14th in that event, and Tia was 1st. And that's just a lot of points to surrender, and it put Laura in a pretty big hole. She looked close at the weekend, but there was just never really a shot because Tia was always just one place behind her. But because Laura won 4 events, Laura got quite a few opportunities to talk with Kiki on the mic. And there was one after the pegboard event that shocked me and kind of disgusted me.
In what ways do you feel that background helps with an event like this?
Dude, you guys ask me so much. Like, I don't know, have you tried climbing? It's all like in the forearm, and the pegboard is also pretty much in the forearm. So, I don't know, I just feel comfortable hanging from stuff, so it just paid off.
It's just so incredibly rude. And I get that Laura may feel like she's answered this question before, but new fans are coming into CrossFit every single day. At least you hope so, right? So you need to remind them of these things, that Laura has been the top-ranked climber in Hungary. Not everyone knows that who's watching the Invitational. Not everybody knows that who's watching the game. So it was an important thing to mention. And also, Kiki's just doing her job. I do that job. I'm a reporter in my life outside of YouTube, and it's just incredibly rude when people do that. I've had people do that in some more random interviews I've done, but someone like Laura Horvath, part of the reason that she's even famous is because of the fact that media pays attention to her. These people are super fit. That is awesome. If this wasn't made into a competition and essentially a game for people to watch, no one would care that Laura Horvath is this fit. But she wouldn't be one of the top CrossFitters in the world. These broadcasts is what makes her money. The fact that people want to pay attention to her because she's doing well at these competitions, which are broadcasted, that's why she gets to do this for a living. So I just find it really off-putting when athletes are rude on the broadcast, rude to the media staff who are doing their jobs. I don't like it, don't think it was necessary, and really disappointed in Laura to hear that. I know that some people might think that's an unfair take or Laura's just doing her job, but I also think the media is part of Laura's job. Doing those interviews is part of her job. In addition to winning the competition, she's got to do the media if she wants to finish her job. This is part of it. Do it better. Okay, after that little rant, let's continue down the leaderboard. So in third, we had Ariel Lowen, kind of a surprise, because everyone talked about how this was a 3-horse race between Tia, Laura, and Gabby, and really that Tia was gonna win, and it was a matter of seeing how Laura and Gabby shook out on the podium. Gabby was in second after day one, but Gabby got injured, and as we move our way down the podium, we will talk about that and what we know about that so far. But Ariel Lowen in third, never count Ariel Lowen out. She's been at third in the CrossFit Games as well. She just has this way of chipping away, staying in it, not getting discouraged, and proving her fitness by being consistent. And that's what we saw from her here. Some fairly consistent finishes, 1/16th, that's a little bit of an outlier. But aside from that, very consistent for Ariel Lowen. Not shocked to see her on the podium, although I didn't think that she was going to be there in my predictions going into this. But again, I don't think she would be there if Gabby was in the competition. But awesome performance from Ariel Lowen. Right below her, Alex Kazan, who looked like she had a chance at the podium. She was in the podium position going into that final event. I expected a little bit more from her on the sandbag clean. She tends to be good at that movement, but I think just the volume of them versus going for a max is what was the difference for her. Alex. In fifth, Brooke Wells. I think we're seeing Brooke Wells come back and be the athlete she's been in the past, that injuries have set her back and just not making it to the games also because of an injury one year. And now we're seeing a healthy Brooke Wells. I believe she is working with JR over in South Carolina. So I think that she has some good coaches in her back pocket, and we could see some big stuff from Brooke in the 2025 season, and this might just be the beginning of it. In sixth, Emma Tall. Emma Tall also threatened for the podium. Believe she had a shoulder injury that she was battling with that made it difficult for her to do the peg crosses, and that just sort of is what knocked her out, really strained her, and was a lot of pulling in those last events too, the sandbag, and just couldn't hold on to that podium position. But overall, a good showing from Emma Tall. Danny Spiegel had a great final day to put her in the top 10, 7th position. Good job for Danny. And then we come to 8th, Gabby Magala. So Gabby was solidly in the top 3, and she was in 3rd even after the 7th event, the first event on Sunday that she didn't compete in. She was still in 3rd after that because she had built such a buffer. She finished in the top 10 without finishing the competition. So on the final event on Saturday night, event 6, when they did the hay bailovers, it was really just a covered object, 55 inches tall, I believe, at least for the men, maybe similar for the women. She pulled something in her leg. She had a lower body injury. As of my recording of this, she has not said what happened. Okay, so I recorded that before work, and now I am editing it after work, and it appears that Gabby Magala has come out now saying that she has torn her Achilles. They went to the medics after event 6 when she needed to be helped off the field, and they could not feel her Achilles, meaning it had torn. She said she felt like something had hit her. That's something that's very common in rupturing your Achilles. I think Henrik Haapalainen said the same thing. I know when it happened to Julie Fouché, she looked back behind her. Henrik did that when his Achilles ruptured during event 6. Julie said that it felt like a barbell had hit her in the back of her leg, and that's what she thought had happened before she realized it was her Achilles tendon rupturing. So it's looking like Gabby Magala's season is over. The Achilles injury will take longer to rehab than we have between now and the Open. There's pretty much no chance that she'll be able to compete in the Open. So timeline has changed for her, but I do think we'll see Gabby Magala back. It's really unfortunate that she won't be a part of the 2025 season, but I think we'll see her back for 2026. It's definitely a bummer, but she seems to be in fairly good spirits right now, and hopefully we hear more from her soon. Henrik Haapalainen ruptured his ACL on this event. So after Gabby, He left the event. He posted about it. He said he's going to a surgeon and is hopeful to get better. Seems like he's in decent spirits, at least from his post. But after those 2 injuries, they switched it from the overs to burpee overs for the last few rounds of the men's competition. I don't know if that is the PFAA. There were a couple representatives from that there stepping in and being like, hey, we got to do something different because of this. Or if it was just the event staff at Rogue being like, hey, this doesn't look good, let's adjust. But they were still bouncing very fast. If you looked at Yi, who killed that event on those overs, and pretty, I don't know, still worried that something could happen there, but it was a little bit slower than it was prior to switching out the movement. So they did try to make adjustments. Gabby and Laura, I mentioned this in a live stream that I did, but if you didn't watch that, doesn't seem like they were interacting much. They used to be training partners, very good friends. Gabby was dating Laura's brother for a long time. Not sure if that's all still true. But that's some stuff that they're allowed to keep private. They do not have to tell us as the public all that information, but it does seem that Laura and Gabby are still on the outs. Rounding out your top 10, Manan Anguinese, very good performance from her. Then Maddie Sturt. Danielle Brandon was in 11th. Emily Rolfe in 12th. Paige Semenza in 13th. Sydney Wells, great performance from her. I know 14th doesn't seem great, but she qualified through the qualifier like Manan Anguinese. And Sydney Wells had her season cut short. So pretty impressive to see her bounce back here. Amanda Barnhart in 15th. 16th, Haley Adams. Not what we expected from Haley Adams. Although Rogue is just not usually a strong competition for somebody built like Haley Adams, she did have a really strong finish on the final event. The sandbags, surprising as not a strength athlete, but she can move odd objects. Did not do well on the pegboards. That was a big problem for her. She had a couple events that she just didn't look very good on. But she seemed to bounce back a little bit. She seemed happy at the end of event 9, and I think that's all we hope to see from her, is that she can bounce back, that she doesn't let these things get her down. This is not her games. This is Rogue. Rogue is very competitive and awesome competition, but it's not the same as the games, and I think that's where her focus is, and having fun. And she did smile quite a bit and seemed like she was having fun, so hope Haley doesn't let this bring her down. Dana Pran in 17th, Taylor Williamson in 18th, Taylor Howe in 19th, and Emma McQuaid in 20th. That rounds out the women. Let's switch over to the men. I did not pick Jeff Adler to win this. I really should have. I picked him to podium, but not to win. He says that he's been singularly focused on things throughout the season. And I think after the games ended the way they did for him and he pulled out, that his singular focus was Rogue. And he really showed how good he is. He had no finishes outside the top 10. His lowest was a 9th on event 6. Again, the event that was the duel, where seconds separated things. I feel like if that's your worst event, it's not necessarily a fitness thing that is holding you back. And nothing's holding Jeff back. He won the CrossFit Games, did not defend his title this year because he didn't compete. And then he came and won Rogue for the first time ever. So definitely no fitness issues for Jeff, although some of his best finishes were the beginning of all of day 1 and the beginning of day 2. And he just did what he needed to do to finish and maintain his winning position, although he won by, 35 points. So pretty good job for Jeff Adler here. And for Jeff, he was ahead after day 1, and I just thought there was very little chance of anyone catching him after his day 1 performance. And that's what happened. In second, it was awesome. It was who I think we all wanted to see on the podium. Brent Fikowski announced he was retiring shortly before this competition on his Instagram. And then he comes out here and he gets a podium position. Podiumed at the games, podiumed at Rogue. It's a really great way to end a fantastic career. He absolutely killed some of the events. Event 7, the pegboard, Brent was in a league of his own. He was like doing little flips off the pegboard. You could see he was happy and he was just really loving that moment and taking it all in for probably the last time. Maybe he'll unretire. I don't know. Probably not. I think he wants to focus on the PFAA. But he was fun. He looked happy. He got a little bit emotional when talking to Kiki about this being his last competition.
So grateful to have them as friends. And yeah, it's just been so great to share this experience with them.
We have also enjoyed sharing this experiences with you.
But really happy to see Brent end up on the podium. Would have been cool to see if he could have pushed for that first place, but Jeff was really just out so far ahead after day one and most of day two that it was really hard for anyone to catch him. Then in third, Jason Hopper, and you could see how excited he was to be in third when he won the final event, the sandbag event, and knew that he was going to be on the podium.
Hopper's going to lock it out, and Jason Hopper could wind up on the podium.
Jason Hopper has finished 7th at Rogue Invitational every other time he's competed, so this was a big moment to break past that. He got a 19th on that log muscle-up workout, just not his thing, although I'm sure he could work on them to be a little bit better than 19th. But still made the podium after a 4th place finish at the CrossFit Games. Really awesome season for Jason Hopper. He's made some changes over the last couple of years, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that here and him just doing really, really well in all of these competitions. And, you know, solidifying himself as one of the top athletes in the CrossFit space. In 4th, Ricky Garrard, somebody that was in a podium position for all of the weekend basically, except at the end of it, where he just lost it. The back end of Ricky's weekend was not great for him. He had a 13th, a 10th, and then a 6th to end today. And things just really got tighter on the men's side of the leaderboard. And he just didn't do enough to keep up. Those 13th and 10th place finishes really crushed him and just took him out of that podium contention. Jason hit the home runs where he needed to, and Ricky is going to have to wait till the games if he wants to get back on the podium or another competition. But I think there's not as many that compete with the games like Rogue does. Not that Rogue is trying to take the games position. They're certainly not, and they've made that abundantly clear. But because of the level of athlete they draw in, it is a very competitive competition, and there aren't many others that bring in this type of talent and showcase the athletes like Rogue, which they do a very good job of doing. Dallin Pepper in 5th. I thought he could have gotten to the podium, but he just had a couple bad finishes, 2 10ths and a 14th. Other than that, though, he was fairly solid, but Ricky Garrard, Dallin Pepper, 4th and 5th, had the same number of points. So that is like, the points kind of got a little bit tight up there in that top 5-ish positions for that, or the top, 3rd through 5th for that final spot on the podium. Things got tight and made it difficult for Dallin and Ricky to make it, but we did get a good podium and a really competitive race, which I think people love watching. Jay Crouch, looking pretty impressive. Jay looked really good at the 2023 CrossFit Games, had to pull out early in 2024, but he's with Proven now, working out with Tia a lot and Shane. I think it's really showing, and Jay is somebody we have to continue to keep our eyes on. In 7th, Guy Malheiros, and he started out with a 20th on the running event. Apparently he's training for a marathon. Not sure if we're really seeing the fruits of that in this event, but it is different than running as long as you do for a marathon. Guy is just not great the longer events are, but Rogue is a primarily strength event. It's not a strength event, but they do have a strength bias, a leaning towards strength. He is a freak when it comes to strength things, when it comes to fast twitch. We saw that in the duel. He's won the duel multiple times in different iterations of it at Rogue. Guy's body and his gifts, what he says God has given him, is something that lends itself to the Rogue competition, and we're seeing that again. Good showing for Guy, coming in 7th place and capitalizing where he could. Just needs to fill up those holes a little bit. I mean, if Guy had a middle of the pack finish on event 1, he could have possibly ended up on the podium. So he's got to figure out that endurance part of this and those not necessarily marathon time spans, but those more mid to long for CrossFit time spans for workouts. In 8th, Justin Medeiros, just not looking like Justin of the past. I thought he could have won this competition. I picked him to. He's won it twice. He's won the CrossFit Games twice. He won semifinals in North America West this year and looked fantastic doing it. And I don't know. I don't know why we're seeing such disappointing finishes from Justin Medeiros. Maybe he'll talk more about it in the future, but yeah, bummed out to see it. In 9th, we have Patrick Vellner. Really bad finish for him at Rogue, but I did hear that he was battling an illness, so that could be what contributed, or very likely is what actually contributed to him ending up in 9th place. So not a great finish for Pat. He was the previous 2023 Rogue Invitational winner, but he's not retiring that we know of, and he'll have a chance to go back to the CrossFit Games and show us what he can do, hopefully this coming summer. Jonakowski turned 30 on Sunday, the final day of the competition. He had a heat win and finished in 10th. Decent place for Jona, kind of where I expect him to be at this point in his career. In 11th, we had James Sprague, and Sprague is, he's recovering from pneumonia. I don't think this competition lends itself to his skill set. I think maybe he could have had top 10 potential without the pneumonia, but I don't feel like Rogue is a competition where James Sprague will be able to win like he did this year at the CrossFit Games. 12th, Chandler Smith. I thought he could have done a little bit better. He has podiumed at Rogue before, just didn't quite get there this year. Jorge Fernandez was in 13th. He qualified through the online qualifier, so that's a good finish for him. Samuel Quant in 14th. 15, Sam Cornwallier. 16th, BKG. And like I've mentioned with BKG, it seems low. I think he's in the back end of his career and he's just enjoying the fruits of what he's built over the years. I don't think he's going to be a podium contender like he has been in the past. Saxon Panchek in 17th. I believe he got one of those last-minute invites, so not crazy to see him a little bit lower down the leaderboard. 18th, we have Henrik Haapalainen. He has that Achilles injury, so I think that he is going to be out for the foreseeable future. We'll see what his surgeon says, and if I don't think he can make it back for the games this year. Sad for Henrik. 19th, Noah Olsen, not to finish in last after coming off an Ironman. Pretty impressive for Noah. And then finally in 20th is Yorgos Karvis, and he was pretty much at the bottom of the pack the whole weekend. Anyway, Rogue was super fun. Congrats to everyone who made it on the podium and everyone who competed. This is a super competitive field, smaller than the games, might be more competitive than the games because it's smaller and you have a lot of games athletes. So really incredible to compete there. And even if you do poorly there, you're doing poorly among some of the best. Next up for competitions that I'll hopefully do some coverage for, we've got Dubai coming up in December. Then we have the Open and the Games. So much stuff to come. If you're enjoying this content, make sure you subscribe. I show some of my own normal person training as well, so if you want to see that, there'll be some videos about that. I appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Let me see if I can get Carson over here. Carson, come say goodbye. Come say bye to the vlog. Bye from the sleepy boy. Bye-bye. Bye. Say bye. Wait, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.